Roxana Ortega, welcome to Cultural Attaché.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here.
We're going to talk about the world premiere of your new play, Am I Roxie, which will be at the Geffen Playhouse September 3rd through October 5th. My first question for you has nothing to do with the play whatsoever. But as somebody who grew up in Fullerton, and I grew up not far from there in La Mirada, how often did you go to Rudabagores?
Never. I don't
Never.
I don't even know what that is.
Wow.
What is it?
It's just this little restaurant that was always been there. I think it was on Pomona Avenue. Um,
Pomona.
on in Fullerton. And when I was growing up, that was like the place to go if you wanted to feel like you were sophisticated as a teenager.
Well, I definitely didn't want to feel sophisticated. I was just trying to survive or fit in or and my dad taught at Fullerton. Um, and he wanted always to eat out of town. Like he was like, I don't want to run into anybody. I don't want to be at work. So we went to Casa Maria. I don't know if you remember
I
that
remember Casa
Mexican
Maria.
restaurant, and they had like
Yes.
live bunnies hopping around the property, which as a kid, I was like, let's go to the bunny place. So we basically went out to eat there. Other than that, it was eating my mom's food, which I say in the show tasted like bleach and resentment. So it wasn't that tasty.
Yeah, it doesn't sound nutritious either. So, so your name is Roxana. The play is Am I Roxie? Is there a difference between Roxana and Roxy?
Well, that's interesting. Everybody always called me Roxy growing up in my family. I feel like a Roxy. In Spanish, Roxana is, I like that. My mom would call me Roxanita, but I tended to be assaulted with the police song my whole life, Roxanne. And so I found that, I just call me Roxy was a way to avoid being sung at. And it feels like me. So, so yeah, that's where it's really my name, what I associate with.
Well, and unless you run into show queens, we'll start singing Chicago to you.
Exactly. And that I appreciate. Or old school Roxanne, Roxanne, or, sometimes they go Rosanna, Rosanna, which isn't my name, but I appreciate the old school shout out there.
Absolutely. Now, in November of 2023 on Instagram, you wrote that you had been working on this material for 10 years. What have been the highs and lows of a decade-long journey that is leading to this world premiere of Am I Roxie?
Wow. Um, Well, I think the highs have been, this has really been like a self-discovery piece of discovering my voice. My first writing, semi-professionally or on a stage is sketch comedy through the Groundlings Sunday Company, which I was a part of. And so I was writing comedy and characters. I was often using characters from my own family, which I love to do. But this show, I started, just trying to capture what was happening with my mother as I was helping to care for her. And I told myself, I'm not going to take any class. I'm going to just I'm going to listen to people storytelling like old school, like The Moth, or there are all sorts of open mics and shows here in LA. And I would go and listen and see what I liked, and then I'd experiment and I really found my own voice. So that's the high of it. The lows were, oh my God, what is this? What am I doing? What am I writing? What is oh, I don't know how to do this. At first, it was just stories, different stories that I knew I wanted to capture. And then I thought, well, how do I put this all together? I don't really know how to do this. And the way I write, everybody says, well, make an outline and do it this way. And I just felt like I wanted it to pour out of me. And then I kept saying, like, let it tell me what it wants to be. So getting my hands off of it in a way and allowing it. And so the final stage, I guess 2023, I joined Ammunition Theater Company's Writers Lab. I'm a member of that theater company, and I joined that playwrights lab, and I was working with all these playwrights, and I was like, I'm not a playwright, but here's my piece. And they were awesome, so much more experienced than me, but really supported me in my voice and allowing, besides the comedy, all the poetry and the beauty to come out and help me find the structure.
You also did a workshop, didn't you, of the show not that long ago, because there were people who were commenting on Instagram having attended the workshop. What did you learn, or I guess it was a reading? What did you learn from that reading, and how has that informed what audiences will now see at the Geffen Playhouse?
Well, there was a reading at the end of the playwrights workshop. It culminated in a reading. So I did a reading, and my goal was let me just get this out of me and say it in front of people. And someone from the Geffen was in the audience. And what I learned from that reading was I was blown away by the response. I mean, it was overwhelming because you sit within a solo show. My God, you're by yourself in your mind. And I'm playing 20 characters, but I'm by myself and I'm writing this. It's such a, it's solitude. And then you bring it out as the performer. So it was like I was receiving all this energy from people, and people were very moved by it. I had people like crying in my arms who I didn't know. People said they were laughing, they were crying. It was magical. They kept saying it was magical. I go, I don't know. What the hell does that mean? I didn't write it to be magical. So after that, so someone from the Geffen, we went into a development process. They said, we want to do this play. We want to help develop it here. And we got to choose me and Bernardo Cubria, who's the director, who was also running the playwrights workshop. We got to choose designers, and we got into a room and we collaborated, and we just got to, envision what does this look like on a stage? And just break apart story and I guess that's the long way of saying, like, I just learned all that the piece was in its, the magnitude of its, sometimes it's very big and magical and funny, and sometimes it's very intimate and small. So it's a ride. It's a ride.
Well, there's that split second when you finish the last word of the play in the reading before an audience responds. Do you remember what you were thinking as soon as you said that last word?
Well, as someone who, so you haven't read the piece, correct?
No, they wouldn't
They
let me
didn't
because they
study.
said it
Yeah.
was
Oh, they
still
would
being
let
worked
you.
on.
Well, I'm very proud of the last moment. Um, so I'm playing my mother, who's, dying from Alzheimer's. Don't ever write that for yourself because I'm realizing I'm like, this is kind of tricky. But the last moment is my mother's moment, and there's quite a poetry to it. And the audience, I could hear them kind of, or oh, like they had a real reaction to it. And then all I remember after that was I went off stage and I just kind of buckled over and just started sobbing just to have going, oh my God, it's out. And I said it in front of people. I had no idea the journey that I would be on now, still, about to premiere it at the Geffen.
Um, but that must be a great feeling at this point, even though I'm sure there's a lot of work between now and September 3rd.
Well, yeah, we're deep in rehearsals. This is my day off, but we are deep in rehearsals. So there is a lot to do, but we've come so far. It's on its feet for the first time after writing for 10 years to actually be like, oh, I get to move. And actually doing so much voiceover as well. You're not allowed to move from the mic. Um, I get to like take up space with these characters, which I also get to do in improv, but just to be able to, you know, yeah, move and embody these characters more and find the behavior. It's just so fun.
Now, you referenced your mother's Alzheimer's. I mean, this navigates a time when you faced a double-barreled sucker punch from life, where your mother was diagnosed with Alzheimer's and your father shortly thereafter passed away of a heart attack. As some, I myself have been through,
Mhm.
helping my parents exit this world, and I learned so much about my coping mechanisms, my level of compassion, and how to take care of myself. And I'm wondering, what did you learn most through that time?
Well, that journey that you just said is what the show is about, that journey. Whenever you're watching somebody exit this life, especially a parent, boy, does that bring up stuff. for you, your own mortality, your own, you see what you're made of. You see, in this show, there's a lot of humor to be had in, oh my God, I'm so fucking selfish. Oh my God, like going, oh my God, wait a minute. Who's going to give me a bath when I'm older? I'm giving my mom a, holy shit, I better get on this dating scene. Like there's a lot of that in the show and a lot of humor for the way that our minds can start, making it about us while while we're also being compassionate and trying to take care of somebody else. But I'd say, with Alzheimer's, if you even say the word, people go, oh God. As I say in the show, well, it's the saddest one, that's just what it is. But I think that, navigating like a long-term loss like that, there is an opportunity to discover more, to find, wow, I got through something this hard, and on the other side of it, go like, I am a badass. I know what I'm made of now. I didn't before, but now I'm embracing it. And the show really allows me, you get to see me go on this journey and use all that Roxy is as an actor, my play, my imagination, that spirit of yes and, as we say in improv, to learn to play with my mom in her dementia. So there's a beauty and fun in that.
I also found in the process, particularly with my mother, that whatever the shit is that I had that existed between the two of us disappeared instantaneously as soon as she was diagnosed with cancer, because I knew that was going to be a wasted use of my time for whatever time she had left. This, I mean, given how you described your mother's cooking at the beginning of this interview, I'm assuming you had one or two observations about her.
Well, it's interesting because my mother was the only one in the home who really got me. She had been an actress, as I say, for a hot second in Lima, Peru. And she was just this brilliant brain, this just creative. She wrote poetry and she had all these dreams. She came to the US at 22. And, some of it was the times, like you could just be a secretary and the patriarchy. So she wasn't actualized. So when I decided to be an actor, finally brave enough to do it, I felt like I was pursuing a dream for both of us. And as an immigrant, a child of an immigrant, like you carry this thing of like, you want to make it worth it. You feel what they project onto you of their dreams. So I was trying to make all that happen. And then she gets sick. So I'm dealt with, well, shit, now do I give it up for her the way she gave it up for me? And so it's processing what I thought of her as a little girl and what is the story that I created about my mom. And it wakes me up to that I was living my life in reaction to this story of what I thought all her sacrifices meant and how bad it was. And so the show is like a dismantling of the story as I'm reconnecting with my mom in that way that we did when I was a kid, but it's a changing of the guards. So it's very circle of lifey, which I say in the show, and then I dance to the circle of life for brief moments.
Yeah, because you can't probably license the queue for any longer than that.
That part.
It is interesting, when the parent becomes the child and the child becomes the parent.
It's not for the faint of heart. I think that a lot of people resist it. And I've learned to appreciate those of us who are able to do it. Just because you're a child of somebody going through something, it doesn't mean that you're going to rise up and say, okay, I'm going to take this on. So this show is a love letter to the caregivers in all their forms out there. It is it is really difficult work. It takes enormous selflessness and fortitude and humor, I think, to survive that, to not let it break you.
And a particular kind of humor too. Sorry to interrupt, but
Yes.
it really requires an acceptance of gallows humor.
Oh, there's a whole sequence where I am trimming my mother's pubic hair to, a Star Wars theme. You have to you have to laugh. I mean, it's dark in our caregiving system. If you have not fallen down that rabbit hole in our nation, oh my God, you better find a way to laugh because it is horrifying. It's horrifying.
Yes, and if you're undocumented here and trying to do that, it's doubly horrifying. Um, so
Well,
though this is a personal journey, is there an aim or a desire to add some topicality to what you're talking about? Because people are going to be looking to you because of your background to potentially say something about this. I don't know that your show is the platform for it, but I'm wondering if you feel like there is room for it in the show or have felt that there was room for it.
I don't think that the show speaks to that, but it is being, it was developed. We've had this in plans before. What's happening in Los Angeles now with the ICE raids in our community, but I think there is more of a resonance to see someone like me, a you know, a child of a wonderful immigrant. She was a citizen. My father was born and raised in East LA, Chicano, and there's something to I think talking about the dreams with which, the children of our wonderful immigrant community come in with, and the dreams that the parents, that immigrants have. Why else would you come? Just that brave act and all of that it takes to immigrate. So I hope there's an honoring to that story. And I think also, I talk about, the people taking care of my mother were immigrants. That whole system is immigrant. The caregiving community, those are immigrants. So the filter with which people are watching the show may be different. And my job as the playwright is to just, stay true to what this story is. And I'm proud that I'm able to bring it and highlight and celebrate our community at a time like this.
Yes, and hopefully people understand that this story happens regardless of where you were born or where you live. Yeah, your
Yes.
story is universal.
It's so universal. And even if you haven't lost a parent, everyone, I think, whether you're close or not to your parents, like you feel it coming and you go, huh, how's that going to come as your parents age? Um, or somebody close to you age, or even like parents, when you fall down that rabbit hole of caregiving where you're like, oh my God, I didn't know that this is what it was. How do I balance my life and taking care of this child? How do I do this? So I think it's going to resonate deeply, really to anybody who has a soul. And if you don't have a soul,
We know some people not to invite.
well, if you don't have a soul, you're probably not going to go buy a ticket to a theater solo show about Alzheimer's
Probably not going to buy a ticket to a show anyway,
at all.
or maybe Les Mis, but that's a cheap
Yeah.
shot. Um, what was the process that you experienced, and is this part of the show, of allowing yourself to feel a sense of relief when this was all behind you?
Well, there is an exhale in the show. I mean, she passes away in the show. Spoiler alert. She passes away in the show. And so there is an exhale. Um, and I, so hopefully the audience will get to exhale I think that a lot of people are going to have catharsis, through the show, just watching this for their losses. But, it was a long process afterwards. There was a lot of grieving to do. And as you know, it's not just one exhale after, it's um, a long road of complexity, of Thank God that's over. Thank God she's not alive. It's COVID. Thank God she's not alive right now. And also, my God, I miss her so much. It's that dance, you learn to live with it. And rehearsing now, I've unlocked so much grief that it has shocked me that I'm grieving all over again because you kind of have to, as I'm in the show now acting it, I go, oh my God, what have I done to myself? It's all coming up again. It's alive in our cells.
It doesn't go away. I remember a couple years after my mother died, I was driving from West Side to where I lived in Echo Park, and out of nowhere I would just start crying thinking about her. And I thought that was so weird, and then I realized, no, it's just if you still have that sense of grief, then you still have the love as well. And if you ever lose the grief, you lose the love.
Yeah, it's the other side of it. And as I say in the show, it's like really, really, really bad food poisoning. You think you're like, okay, I vomited like 24 times. I think I'm done. Blech. And you go, oh, no.
Um, there is a long tradition of one person shows. I mean, Whoopi Goldberg and Lily Tomlin perhaps set the gold standard for a lot of people. John Leguizamo does amazing shows as well. And he has a new show at the Public, which is not a one-person show this season. Um, but I'm wondering, are there any particular actors who have done what you are doing, who have served as an inspiration for you or setting the bar for what you want to accomplish?
So many. And I've been a connoisseur of solo shows since before it's like my subconscious knew I was going to do this before I did. My consciousness, it caught up with me. So I saw people like Marga Gomez in the Bay Area. I saw Lily Tomlin, John Leguizamo. Absolutely. To me, that's the gold standard for me, because I like the energy and the quick pace and the comedy. I mean, this one, the highs and the lows, I'm quite proud of because I feel like it's like life. Um, so, yeah, I mean, so many. I love Lackawanna Blues, it's just so many people who've inspired me.
Have you seen Elaine Stritch at Liberty?
No.
You should look at that one. That's a beast of a only one person can do that show.
Oh, man, I love that. Yeah, I love that. Where you go, yes, yes, that's.
Yeah, that ran on HBO. I don't know if it's still available there, but definitely worth checking out. There's the old adage that you know, dying is easy, comedy is hard.
Mm.
What's the combination of the two?
I don't think you have comedy without death, which is why, I think the comic understands the depth of what this life is. That, hey, we're all on an escalator to one end. Like, I think, a comic understands that. And, comedy comes from so much, but there's a reason why this has been said before. You go, oh, I killed, I'm dying, just that. All that terminology is on to something, the comedians I know and beyond sketch comedy, but like stand-ups, those people are real in touch with the darkness of life and the sadness. So I think at the end, like again, this is about survival in our spirits, and there's a defiant and triumphant comedic tone to the show as we're navigating this very, very difficult topic that most people do not want to even discuss.
Well, hopefully it'll provoke people to start being less afraid of it.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, there's, and just even talking about the show or letting myself write a show like this, it's like, oh yeah, I'm writing a solo show about Alzheimer's. It's like, oh God, why? God, why? And who would want to see that, But yeah, as we've been talking about, it's about so much more, and we can't shy away from these things. And I like going into these areas of life. I'm, I really. I really like them and I think they're ripe for comedy, or maybe just I have a particular ability to find comedy in them.
I think that's how we all survive, though, isn't it? By finding the humor in even the worst situations.
You must.
A big question for you, and it's not your responsibility necessarily to have an answer, but what do you think the future has to hold for Latino talent in making greater inroads in film, television, and theater? Because it's long overdue.
Thank God I have a swivel chair to do that bit. But you know, we are at such a moment of uncertainty that who knows? But what I'm very excited about is I'm a part of this organization called Latinas Acting Up, which was formed during the strike by Diana Maria Riva and Lisa Vidal. And it's a wonderful board, Gina Torres, all these wonderful Latinas who saw a need to bring Latinas together and really try to raise each other up and just provide support and community. And the results of that have been just awesome because people are developing their own projects. We have to learn to find a way to continue to create and to make ourselves decision makers and help elevate each other so that we can just tell our stories. We live in such a wonderful, diverse country and it's so rich with stories from all different backgrounds. And so I hope the future just is one where we get to hear all these stories, and from Latinas in particular, that we get to just carve out that space for ourselves, and then that I believe that the audience will be there for it.
And hoping casting directors won't think that everybody's Mexican.
Well, there's a whole, unfortunately, the more stories we get out, right? It's like it sucks that we have to be the educators of that, but again, that's the way that it is. So this particular story that I'm putting on stage, I'm playing myself in all my, when I say media blanquita, I'm in between cultures, and I play Peruvian, Chicano, there's a lot of reference to our wonderful diversity within just the Latino community.
So, last question for you, Roxana. In May, on your Instagram account, you talked about the process of this and what you wanted to how you wanted to do what I liked, what felt funny and true, and find my voice. At this point in the process, a few weeks before you open, how do you think your voice is different now than it was when you began this journey of creating what became Am I Roxie?
My voice is a lot stronger now. And I mean that quite literally. Like I've been working on my instrument, my vocal instrument, for like hardcore for a year and a half. I do like 20 characters in the show. So quite literally, what I can do now, more vocal Olympics, um, I call it, is it's great. And I'm very proud of myself vocally on that. Now, in terms of my voice, I would say it is also stronger in that I've allowed this real vulnerable kind of poetic side to come out and be side by side by this real this comedy. Sometimes it's broad, sometimes it's like, oh, these real grounded characters, sometimes it's real clowny. So this show is like a mixture of everything that I am up to this point creatively, from my theater days through improv and sketch, all the cartoons that I've done, and so yeah, it's just this wonderful mixture, a big kind of circle of life moment to be heading back to the stage with a whole new voice as an artist.
And it's your voice, not somebody else's.
Yes, there's something so empowering about that. And to have my voice, heard. And then, my first play going up at the Geffen is just, it's a real boost in confidence. Unfortunately, sometimes it takes somebody outside of us to go, "Hey, good job. We like this." And then you go, "Oh, okay. Maybe I'll continue." It's an attaboy, as we say in our house. Attaboy. Keep